everyone. Welcome back to Talking Shop here on The Experience. Thanks so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. We love it. So I don't waste any of the time that you guys want to totally talk to Tyler. Welcome, Tyler Main.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Everyone was so excited. I don't think I've ever had more pre-show messages come through the comments.
I love it. I love it. So how are you?
I've been doing really good. Are you living in parts of the country that are now becoming giant popsicles?
Well, it's supposed to be pretty soon. Yes. So, but I've been so busy with this Kickstarter. I'm going everywhere. It's crazy. I went to the eye doctor today and they dilated my pupils. So if I look like I'm spaced out and I can't see anything, I'm like, yeah.
You'll be exactly the same because I have my new prescriptions glasses on, which means basically everything is a big fog, which is great. But I look cute in them, so.
I know, it's crazy, right? It's like there's a haze everywhere. It's like, this is great.
Welcome everybody to your late 40s, early 50s. And when you're laughing at us now, when it happens to you, you'll be like, oh yeah.
Exactly, right? Your beards turn gray, your hair falls out. It's great.
The best. You appreciate your parents so much more.
Right?
So what was childhood like for you? Were you inspired by anything that you experienced as a child that make me like, you know what I want to do? I want to be in the entertainment industry.
Oh my gosh. I was a tall, skinny kid, glasses, braces, growing up in Canada, and I was dyslexic, slightly dyslexic. So I was in special reading classes, and there was only me and another kid. That's how small our school was. Mm-hmm. And so we were the ones that were looked down on or whatever. But we had a white elephant sale at the school to raise money for the school. So everybody would bring stuff that they didn't want anymore. And that's when I first found comic books at like in the 3rd or 4th grade. My very first comic book was Beetle Bailey. And then I got a Boris Karloff, Tom Sawyer. I mean, I got on a collection that day of the widest variety of comic books that you could ever imagine. And I fell in love because I hated reading. So I would try to learn to read because I was trying to teach myself to read. So I'd read a few words and then I'd just get lost, but I'd see the pictures. And it told the story. So I would make up my own stories in my mind, you know, and people would go, well, that's not what's happening. It was happening to me, you know? And then I'd finally learn to read and stuff. And then, you know, then down the line, I ended up marrying a comic book editor. So we've got comic books everywhere in this house. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
I kind of wondered about that because I talk often to creators about, you know, comic books as literature. And part of the strong points that I try to use a lot when I'm talking to educators is that I felt like the form of comic books are very helpful to people that have struggles in reading, like dyslexia, or there's other common ailments that make it harder for people to follow a long linear line. And so I'm always trying to like point out to them that I think that the encapsulation of small amounts of text actually kind of helps with that problem. Did that help at all for you?
It does. It does, because you only have to focus on a few words. It took me a while to figure out how the bubbles go, but they flow pretty smoothly. But it was not having to focus on a paragraph, full paragraph, and go, I can't read, you know. And then I'd read some, and then I'd look at the picture, and it'd send me in a whole different direction. Some people are visual learners. Some people are, you know, learning through word. Mm-hmm. And it is transitioned and driven me to where I am today, doing what I'm doing, you know, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely.
You know? It's like, and it's so funny because like I was at the eye doctor and the lady's like, okay, how far down can you read on this? And I start reading and I got some words wrong. And I was like, look at it, lady, I'm slightly dyslexic, so I can read that line. Okay. And she goes, oh, okay. I don't think she's had a 6'7" person tell her to back off and, you know, so, but yeah. So, I mean, it still affects me today a bit, you know, when I get nervous, like when I'm acting, I pre-learn everything. So it's instinct, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And anytime when people hand me new pages and they go, okay, we're shooting this in 2 minutes, I'm like, oh no,
Wow.
we're not.
So does it help for people to like, if someone were to like just read the dialogue out to you, does your memory work auditory? It's like,
yeah.
way?
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But it's like, what I kind of learned to do too is put pictures with the words.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm still seeing a cartoon or a comic book as I'm reading it, you know? So yeah,
You almost would do good for just having the thumbnails for the scene.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So were you like a theater kid? Did you start acting on the stage, or this happened you straight to film?
Oh no, I was terrified of school and learning and everything like that. Growing up, I used to watch on the weekends in Canada, Stampede Wrestling. I always wanted to be a pro wrestler, right? And being this skinny kid, people go, you're from Saskatoon, you're never going to do that. And so I started, you know, dieting, and I actually, in a comic book, there was the Charles Atlas ads and stuff. So I was like, I want to get that. And I got that. And I started working out. And then I went to the gym and started training in martial arts and transitioned, you know, into who I am today. And it's just crazy how it kind of all evolved, you know? So
and wrestling
yeah,
is
but then
very physical, super physical, but also you have to have the ability to like know, like everything is, you've got to be able to do the right moves at the right time. It's so related to acting. It's not acting itself per se, but
well, actually it is. It's
physical play.
That is theater in the round, you know, like you're doing theater. You're not trying to hurt your opponent, and everybody's watching you all around, you know. So
spoiler alert, it's not real.
Sorry. But so as a kid, I always wanted to do that. And I went to the Stu Hart in Calgary Stampede Wrestling. Everybody knows about the dungeon. I was in the dungeon. Wow. And transitioned after 11 and a half years of pro wrestling into the film industry. And I was like, okay, I've got to do something so I can give back and help out. And, you know, and it's just my nature. And that's why I started my company. And we're now doing a graphic novel that is dealing with a very serious topic, but it's also, if it helps people learn to read, if it helps people learn about the topic, and it helps deal with the subject at hand and protect some people, I am all for it.
So, okay. So you mentioned your wife.
Yes.
And I'm sure that is like a huge blessing to be able to have somebody in the household that can kind of like walk you through the making of the form of comic, even though you've read them. The making of them is a whole different thing. So how intimately involved is your spouse in the process of making what's going to be happening in this book?
Oh, she is editing it. She was the editor-in-chief of Top Cow Comics for like a decade, and she's been at IDW, she's been at Marvel, she's been at Radical. I mean, she's worked for all of these companies. That's amazing. The whole reason this book has evolved, because to try and get this project off the ground, it was originally a novel written by my friend John Saunders. I got the book 15 years ago, And I was like, okay, how am I going to turn this into a property? Because it needs to be put out there. And then I needed to modernize it. And we need to expand on the world and everything and just make it bigger to make it more modern. And I was like, okay, who can I call? Who can I call? So I called David Hayter and I called Tom DeSanto from my X-Men days.
Mm-hmm.
And they both heard the pitch and they're like, dude, you got to turn this into a graphic novel or a comic book or something. And I was like, and they both go, well, you know who your wife is, right? She's got the connections. So like, oh, okay. So then I presented her with the idea and she was like, oh, here we go again. Tyler's going on another trip or rant or whatever. But then when she heard how I wanted to do it, and I was coming to her with legitimate people that I wanted to have her contact. So I was like, she goes, okay, well, like, who would you want to write this? Because you're dyslexic, so you're not going to write this. And I go, well, I would love to team up with Christopher Priest.
Yeah, I mean, picking someone of that caliber ensures amazing writing.
Yes. And she goes, okay, let me make a call. So she calls her old boss and he says, well, I just happened to rep him. So he put us in touch with Christopher and then we started collaborating. And Christopher's like, so what do you want to do with this? And I said, I want to expand this story and I want to make this world bigger, modern, dealing with what's happening in the world today. And I presented ideas to him. He goes, that's never going to happen. And of course, I had articles that were true to life.
Yeah.
So to tell all the people that are watching, I'm talking about The Last Spartan Red Tape, which is a graphic novel written by Christopher Priest. And through our research, we figured we had to make this as real as possible and make it something that would raise awareness to everyone. So imagine Sons of Anarchy meets The Punisher with a human trafficking storyline. Yes, we are talking about human trafficking awareness. And it is a very serious topic. And I've been teaming up with deliverfund.org, who actually has a perk in our Kickstarter, a tier. It's coffee and comics. You can get 12 ounces of their coffee with our graphic novel. So you're helping them put an end to human trafficking. And what they do is help law enforcement with their tactical stuff and all the stuff that they need to put an end to it and help shut down the internet, the bad guys on the internet, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watch a lot of music on YouTube, but there's a lot of channels that just play specific music. And I sit there and watch just people make random comments in the comment section. And there are predators on there every single time I watch it. Every single time. I'm like, oh my goodness. They're hunting 24/7. Everywhere they can hunt. Gaming, console, games, everywhere.
Well,
it's important to have
and that's the thing, raise the awareness so that parents can talk more freely with their kids and make them aware of what's actually going on. Even adults, they don't realize who they're talking to sometimes, but like for kids, they'll say, hey, come meet me at the park or come meet me here, come meet me there. And then it's a whole different story we're telling, which is sad. So I figured this book would hopefully be a channel where parents could talk to kids and people would become aware, because most of us don't realize actually that it is a serious topic, because out of sight, out of mind, and it's such a very serious topic that people don't want to think about it affecting their lives. you know?
Yeah, it's an ugly side of society. And you can't avoid something that you don't know how it happens.
Right.
I mean, if you're not aware how people are doing their hunting for your children, and it's equally, people are equally hunted, male and female, so don't think that your male children are safe from this.
Exactly.
It's really important for them to have some base knowledge, and it's important for us to support these organizations that are supporting our men and women in blue that are fighting a real hard fight. It's a tough thing to fight. So, because a lot of times people that have been stolen and are put in there don't want to leave because they're ashamed.
Exactly. Well, and they feel they can't leave because they're belittled into it, and their families are threatened, and there's so many different things. It's like with doing the research and talking to the law enforcement and the first responders, you know, both nurses and people that deal with it, they say if people have been gone and taken for like up to 72 hours or more, it's really hard to get them back psychologically because they've been in such a mind storm of torture, and it's just craziness. But so through this book, I'm hoping we can raise awareness, and I'm hoping that this book can go gangbusters and really huge, and everybody picks up a copy so that we can actually turn it into a TV series or a feature film where we can keep raising awareness and keep growing and helping the community put an end to the human trafficking, because we got to protect the vulnerable. And it's the most powerful it has been today. Look, everybody knows human trafficking has been around since the dawn of time, you know? Yeah. But it is more prevalent today because of the internet. And that is the awareness that we're trying to raise and hopefully open the line of communication between parents and children.
Yeah. What's so cool about the way Mr. Saunders wrote the book, which I think is a 2008 novel, if you guys are trying to go hunt it down, is that the main character is kind of like not super identifiable. Like I don't identify as, you know, a motorcycle guy, but right. I like that they pair him up with somebody that is she's not super soft, but softer edge, in that, I mean, the story it's not a one-sided story. It's really rich.
Yeah, it is. You know, like Frank Kane is your anti-hero who's getting a second chance at life, and he's trying to straighten out his life. And he's asked by the people who actually gave him his second chance to go find their granddaughter. So he decides to go break his parole and find her and bring her back and save her from all of this. And in his journey, he comes across Amanda Harper, who is a decoy federal agent, who's this little spitfire that's a toughy girl that,
like her,
you know, goes to kick his butt. And he's like, look, you're going to get us both in trouble here. We need to team up. So they end up teaming up, and they both come together and take down this massive cartel. And the story is just, the way Christopher wrote it is, I think about it, I get chills every time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he didn't pull any punches. He
didn't, you know, I mean, and he was putting stuff in there, and Renee's like, ooh, we gotta think about that, you know, we don't want to offend people, but that's what's happening, you know. So it's a serious topic.
Absolutely. Well, you guys make sure that you support the Kickstarter. I mean, I know that you love his work on film and in TV, and maybe big wrestling fans. But he's asking you now to support this thing he's passionate about. And so you guys, I know that fans, they will show up for these kinds of things if you know that your favorite person is passionate about it. So I definitely say do that.
I greatly appreciate it. You know, I mean, like I I appreciate the people that follow me in my big blockbuster films like the X-Men and the Halloweens and the Troys and stuff like that. These little indie projects are the ones where we really need the love to keep it moving forward. So thank you so much for having me on here. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about it. It is like I say, a very serious topic, and I hope everybody perks up a little bit and understands and realize that it's not just sex trafficking too. It's labor trafficking. It's happening in hotels. It's happening in the garment industry. It's happening in all kinds of industries, so it's something that we all have to be aware of, that it's happening all around us.
Absolutely. All right. Would you be game to answering a couple questions that our customers, our viewers, have been throwing out? They're going to be movie related. Is that okay?
Heck yeah, let's go.
All right. If Mike Myers was to fight Sabretooth, who would win? It's an age-old question.
Oh man, I'd be kicking my own butt. So I mean, that's a win-win, isn't it?
They're both, you all win. All of you win if you got to do both of those fights. Oh, here's a fun question. Do you keep in touch with your former partner, Giant Warrior Blade?
I have ran into him a couple of times. It's everybody's living their own lives. I actually ran into him in an airport, I think in the Vegas airport or something. We were both traveling somewhere, and it was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm going home. What are you doing? I'm going to work. Yeah. So it's you run into people every now and again. Yeah.
How was the evolution of Michael Myers between the two movies, and how did you approach portraying the character differently in each film?
Oh, that is a really good question, because like for the first Halloween, I said to Rob, he needs to evolve. Like coming through the asylum, he needs to, be slouching and trudging. And then as he gets out, he's kind of getting his game back. And then when he gets the mask and he puts the mask on, then he's there. And that was the direction for the first film. And I said to Rob, Rob, we need to kick this up a notch, because I don't want to just do the same thing. I don't want to be that guy that's doing a franchise and just doing the same thing. He goes, okay, well, let's make it more vicious. So I'm like, okay. So then that's how the nurse kill came about, and I'm stabbing her like 30 times, and I'm stabbing actually a sandbag, and it was crazy and I'm grunting like crazy because it's not easy to do. Mm-mm. And then he goes, one more, and I just go, wah! And that's where the poster came from for the H2. And that's stuck in the film. And then we just magnified everything and just took it as big as we could, but keeping it as real as we could. We just wanted to make him more aggressive, and that's where the beard came from, where the half mask came from, everything like that. And we created, like, I guess you want to call Hobo Myers, which was so yeah. And then so hopefully they can see the transition from 1 to 2, and then see how it just keeps escalating and getting intensified.
All right. Question from me.
Yes.
Was it a requirement to be from Canada to play Sabretooth?
Apparently it was. No, they actually wanted, they were talking to my ex-tag partner, Kevin Nash. And for some reason it didn't work out. He was out of shape or something. I don't know. And I'm just kidding. And I had the long blonde hair back then with the Fu Manchu.
Oh, perfect.
And they were talking to me about doing the stunts. And the stunt coordinator was like, yeah, well, there's this 140-foot fall off the top of the Statue of Liberty. Are you cool with that? I'm like, I'd been a wrestler, right? I'd wrestled. And I didn't want to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, can I think about that? And then he goes and shows my picture to Bryan Singer. And he goes, oh my God, that's Sabretooth. And the next thing I know, I'm having a meeting with Bryan Singer to be Sabretooth. So I rush out to Cinema Secrets in the Valley in California, and I get the fake teeth and I put them in with Polydent and everything. And I go running into his office. I'm like, Sabretooth's here. And, and, you know, but the funny thing is, like, I knock on the door and there's this kid sitting on the edge of the couch. Not even like sitting on, he's sitting like on the edge of the couch, just typing. And I say, I'm here to see Mr. Singer. He puts his hand up and goes, just a minute. Types a little more. I'm like, who is this guy? And he looks up and he goes, oh my God, I'm Bryan Singer and you're Sabretooth. And he jumped on the glass table. There was a glass table in the office. I don't know how it didn't break. He jumps up on the glass table and he's so excited. He goes, choke me, choke me. So I go, wow. And that's how I became Sabretooth.
Great story. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's, you know, and then after that, I hung up the wrestling boots. I said, I'm done with this. I'm going to keep doing film and transitioning. And that's why I've developed my own production company, you know, to expand my roles and do other things. And luckily it's been going great. You know, one of my favorite roles is Jupiter's Legacy, Mark Miller's comic book that was on Netflix that we did 8 episodes of.
Season 2 so badly.
Huh? I know, right?
Badly. It was my favorite of all of the I'm going to destroy you superhero things.
I know, you know, but the funny thing is I was on there for a little bit, and like if you read the comic book, Black Star is in and out.
Yep.
And they go, oh, we got to keep this character. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then we were talking about 5 years and all this stuff and how the backstory was going to evolve of how Black Star, you know, and I was like, oh, here we go. But everything is, I guess everything happens for a reason. That's one thing that I've said throughout my whole career, because although I love that character, he's by far my favorite character to date. If anybody hasn't seen it, check it out on Netflix. I shouldn't be saying that now, but it's my favorite character by far, because he is such a badass. I don't know if I can say that.
Sure.
He's such a badass, but then he's got a softer side, and he, you know, he loves his graphic novel, or he loves his romance novels. And, you know, I mean, it's just a quirky character that was developed that is just so, it was just so amazing. And, you know, they'd come to me with like 10 or 15 romance novels, and they're like, which one would you like? I'm like, so I got to pick my own romance novel. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. It just is so amazing to get to meet you. We've got the Kickstarter link in the chat so you guys can support that. And I know I've run over a tiny bit, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's been a true joy. And I hope that this Kickstarter funds in no time flat and finds huge success.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are funded, but we need to go bigger. So everybody, please grab a book, grab a tier. I would greatly appreciate it so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Everyone stick around. We've got other stuff coming up next on The Experience. See you next time.
Join the party. Head over to our